This is the Home Alone project tutorial where we're going to break it into two major parts. We're going to look at the left-hand side of the template first, where we work with an original scenario, and then in part two I'll take a look at what happens when you make extra payments. I'd like to show you the end result of where we're headed with our actual template numbers. What we want to have here is called an amortization schedule. So on the left-hand side here we have a $180,000 sell price and all the details that we'll be typing in just a moment. And then over on the right hand side in the second tutorial we'll take a look at that extra payment, and you get some amazing results by paying just a little bit extra each month. So in this first half of the tutorial, what we're going to do is focus right here on the left hand side only. All an amortization schedule really is a breakdown of payments and balances from month to month, and especially it reflects the tug-of-war we see between principal and interest of our payment. So the first thing we're going to do is type in the sell price. That's $180,000 with a down payment of 5%. So I'm going to start with equals 0.05. I'm going to multiply that by the actual sell price. I click on it to get the cell reference of D3. And there's our $9,000. Now closing costs can be paid up front outside of the loan, or they can be financed into the loan, and that's what we're going to choose to do here. That is, this particular loan we're going to pay a flat $2,500. In reality it probably will be much more if you borrow a lot more money. You actually pay a certain percentage for fees of all the paperwork. Let's just go with the $2,500. Loan amount is pretty straightforward. We're going to take the sell price of the house. We're going to need to subtract the down payment because we're putting cash down, and that lowers our debt, of course. And then we're going to add closing costs into the loan amount. So it's D3 less D4 plus D5, and that gives us $173,500. I'll double click that one more time so you can see what we did there. Sell price less the payment plus the costs, and that is how much we're actually going to have to borrow over the next 30 years. Now in our tutorial we want to use a 6% APR, and as you know those APRs fluctuate from week to week, and so in your project you'll want to look up the most recent APR based on a 30-year loan. Bankrate.com is a great location to get information, or even the websites out there for real estate agencies often give you some information on that. We're going to make this a 30-year loan. The payment, just like in the vehicle loan project, we're going to use PMT as our function for payment, left parenthesis. We need to click on the rate, and we need to divide that rate by 12, as you probably already remember and know, because it's a monthly rate that we're assessing. I'm going to use a comma to separate all the inputs. NPER is Excel's way of suggesting the number of periods. So we're going to click on the number of years, and I need to multiply that by 12. That would give me a grand total of 360 periods. We don't want to just type 360 in, because if we click on the 30, that gives us flexibility in case we want to do a 15-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage and so on. The PV stands for present value, you might recall, and that would be the loan amount. So I click on that. That's cell D6. Future value and type, just like in the vehicle loan, they are optional. They're in brackets, and their defaults are already set up for us, so we're ready to hit enter. And you might recall that a negative is fine, but in reality it would be nice to put a negative in front of PMT, so I'm going to click right there, and that just makes the amortization schedule a little more aesthetically pleasing. We'll have to remember the importance of the negative a little later on, however. Total interest is pretty straightforward on this one as well. We're going to take our payment, multiply it by the number of years, multiply that by 12. If I were to hit return right here, I get a grand total, just like we did in the vehicle loan. But that's not what I want. I want total interest, not the grand total of how much I pay out. And so I'm going to subtract right after that the actual loan amount. The loan amount is the principal, and as we said before in the car loan project, remember we said that it's total takeaway loan amount, and that'll get you your total interest. Okay, so there we have our grand total of interest that we would pay to the bank if we were to keep going with this schedule for the next 360 months. In the months, I'm going to skip a space here so that I can have the original balance in there. And I'm going to start with month 1, 2, 3, and so on. I'm going to highlight 1, 2, 3, and just as we've done in the previous project, we're going to click and drag. This will take some time, but it sure beats doing it by hand. I'm going to click and drag it all the way down with the black crosshair, stopping every once in a while to catch my breath. I'm getting close, but I'm not quite, so I keep dragging down. And I want to make it to 360. Alright, 351 looking good, and I'll go just a few more, and you can see the numbers are on the right hand side. It tells me where I've left off, and there's the 360. Scroll all the way back up, and now we're ready to get started in a serious way. And this process again is called amortizing. So I start with the original balance. That's pretty easy. We're going to go equals. We click on the loan amount. It's already formatted for you to the nearest penny, so that's nice. And just as we did with the vehicle loan, we've got to remind ourselves we calculate interest first. So in month 1, I'm going to start out with, sorry about that, get back up here. I'm going to start out with equality. I'm going to click on the original balance. I'm going to multiply that by the interest rate, the APR. But we have to do two things. Since we're going to be filling this down, we don't want that APR to be moving on us, so we lock it in with dollar signs, and the fast way on a Mac is Command T, and on a PC it's function F4. Then we also have to divide the APR by 12. Otherwise it turns out to be an annual amount of interest instead of a monthly. So here we go. So out of the 1,040 payment, $867 is interest. That's money down the drain that doesn't help you, but it does keep the bank happy. Principal is pretty easy as well. You might recall what we did in the car loan project. We simply clicked on the payment and we had to lock it in, so it's called an absolute cell reference. That would be Command T or F4, or you could put the dollar signs in manually, but that just tells D9 to stay put right there. And we subtract the interest. And those two quantities add up to the 1,040, and they can be depressing in a long 30-year loan. This means that we only will see our balance drop a mere $173, and that is tough considering that we wrote a check to the bank for 1,040. Okay, the balance then is nothing fancier than taking the previous month's amount and subtracting the principal. Remember, principal ends with PAL because it's your pal, it's your best friend, it helps you bring your debt down. Interest doesn't do you a bit of good as far as bringing the balance down to zero. Now, I like to test drive just a few rows just to make sure something crazy didn't happen. So I'm going to do a fill down. There we are. And looks like things are behaving properly. The principal is slowly climbing up while the interest is slowly falling down. And then you might recall in our previous project we simply got that black crosshair carefully there and we did a double click. And I think that's pretty miraculous. As I scroll down, those formulas replicate again and again depending on the balances, and you'll notice that if you get carried away you go way past where you belong. There we go. 360 goes out to be a perfect zero. Not going to happen in real life. In real life you'll have a little bit of extra dollars to pay, but that's only because Excel doesn't round to the nearest penny internally. We only see it to the nearest penny here with this payment, but in reality it has many decimals, I think up to 15 going on in the background. Okay, so that is the left-hand side in a nutshell. One thing that's kind of fun to do is to take those balances, not that you have to do this for the project, but you might try this out just for fun. I'm clicking and dragging on all of the balances, trying to get down to the very bottom. And let's just stop right here at, say, about month 180. Just wanted to show you so you can visualize. This represents the first 180 months of balances, and if I were to just take a quick picture of this by going to maybe charts and scatter, you'll notice that it really gets the point across that those balances come down very slowly at first. There you have the first half of that mortgage. Okay, but you don't need to do that for your project. Just wanted you to visualize the pain that comes with a 30-year mortgage. Your debt does fall down, but it falls down extremely slowly. So stay tuned for the second tutorial where we address a much more exciting issue. What happens if you get aggressive and you start to pay a little bit more each month? How can you beat the bank at this game? So thanks for visiting. Hope this will help you to get on your way.